So welcome everyone to this very important day for us and the planet, we believe. So welcome to the Ecstatic Empowerment Podcast launch party, and you're all very, very welcome guests. And it's really lovely to see you all here today. So what we have planned today is really a little bit about why ecstatic empowerment. We'd love to introduce you to some of our guests, our podcast guests who are here with us today, and also some who couldn't be with us today. So we have a video, and we'll also be introducing you to some other people who have been part of making this Ecstatic Empowerment podcast possible. So I'm just going to start with and we've got a little bit of interactive, experiential activity lined up for you as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. So I'm just going, so before I start, let me just introduce you to Anne Bland, my co-CEO. I'm the Chief Empowerment Officer. And Anne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Sue. I'm Chief Ecstasy Officer, and I really want to take this opportunity, Sue, and thank you. You know, I think you are absolutely an amazing co-host, an amazing co-partner and co-founder and co-CEO. And I've had such a ride, so much fun with you over the last year and a half, I'd say. And if you listen to our first ever episode on ecstatic empowerment, you will learn about our story and how we've transformed, because we believe that to change the world, we actually need to transform ourselves. So here's to you, my dear, and here's also to you guys. You know, I really love having you on this podcast, and thank you for coming today, and to all our listeners as well. So cheers. I'm going to drink my own now, am I?
I've already had a sip to get me through the technological issues and the restarting beforehand. Yes. So thank you, Anne. Thank you. So welcome again, everyone. And just a little introduction to Future-Proof Your Business and Ecstatic Empowerment Podcast. So Anne and I met just before the pandemic kicked off in the beginning of 2020. And we were on a Zoom call like this. And Anne suddenly said, hold on a minute, why are all the women on this Zoom call off video, not speaking? What's going on? And we had, it ended up being a really, really positive and interesting conversation with everyone on the call. But that's what started us talking, and also our connection and interest in the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which we were both promoting and in our own ways. And so we started a business called Future-Proof Your Business. And our why is pure and simple, really. We both believe that if we carry on the way we are, and when I say we, humanity, in our using economies and lack and scarcity, and using power in a disempowering way, we're going to make the planet bankrupt. It's almost inevitable. So we're very much about ecosystems based on purpose, people, planet, and profits, or should we say perhaps prosperity for all. So there are some themes that will come up today around ecosystems and empowerment and social structures and superpowers and USPs and climate change and all these amazing topics, because we have been speaking to people who are changing the world in their own way and empowering others to do the same. So very briefly, how did we move from Future-Proof Your Business, which seemed very kind of, you know, this is what we're going to do, what it says on the tin, to ecstatic empowerment, which actually gives us both a smile when we talk about it, and people say, oh, I love that name, you know, they remember it. So how did we move from future-proof to ecstatic empowerment? And it was really about Anne saying one day, well, I think I should be the Chief Ecstasy Officer, and you, Sue, are the Chief Empowerment Officer. And I remember thinking, oh, I like the idea of the chief empowerment officer, but I wouldn't want to be the chief ecstasy officer. But, you know, we're both about a new feminine way of doing business that takes courage to change the paradigms, to be who we truly are, to show up as we are, whether people like it or not. And then we thought, well, hold on a minute, if we're going to do a podcast, why don't we call it Ecstatic Empowerment? And, you know, so that's where the story began. That's the very beginning of the very first chapter of this story. And when we talk about a new feminine way of doing business, it's about purposeful action, which links to, for us, to the UN global goals and the wicked problems that I think all of us here today, and perhaps you listening, we're about. We want to make the world a better place, and we haven't given up. We still believe it's possible by changing the world day by day, step by step, in a way that feels good for us and enables and helps others. So we have purposeful action, and then we have playful adventure, because we can't spend all of our lives and business being serious. Of course, business is a serious thing. There are lots of responsibilities and duties, but we can take a lighter approach to it. We can have fun along the way. And actually, that's what employees and customers and stakeholders want as well. We all want to have joy in our lives, and that's where the ecstasy comes in. And then finally, it's about positive flow. So what's the point of living a hard life and making things difficult when we can actually find creative and innovative ways and co-create and make our lives and our businesses easier and happier and follow a path of least resistance? So who wouldn't want that? So that's really what ecstatic empowerment is about. It's looking seriously at the problems in the world, the problems that we all face day to day, and perhaps our customers, our families, our employees, and our stakeholders. And it's saying, actually, there is a better way. And maybe we could start by feeling joy. Maybe we could start by believing in abundance and positivity, and that actually we can solve these problems that are so complex. Maybe we can just do something today in our little corner of the world that will create the butterfly effect, that will change the world dramatically and create that beautiful ripple effect that we've asked so many of our guests about. So Anne, have I left anything out?
I think you summed it up so beautifully, and you're a natural storyteller, Sue. I'm sure, you know, one of our guests today will agree with me on that, and nothing to be added to that.
Wonderful, thank you, Anne. So before we move to the main part of our time together today, we do have some appreciation and gratitude. Obviously, we appreciate, and we're going to appreciate and share the stories of our guests today. But also there's a couple of people behind the scenes that have helped these two courageous, adventurous women to actually get where we are today and to get the podcast launched. So I'm just going to share and then hand over to you, Anne. Can you see that, Anne?
Yes, I can see it now. Thank you. So one of the things we're very clear on is the things we can do and what we can't do. And we do appreciate people who have different skill sets and can come and share their expertise and masterful skills. So Martin Haseman has been, from the beginning of our journey, the one who's created the branding for us, looking at our logos for Future Proof Your Business, but also for Ecstatic Empowerment. And if you show the one before, the slides before, please, I would like to point out that this image is so dear to us, because if you think about what we're all about, is very much about that planet of ours, and how we can prevent it to go bankrupt, and how we can actually change the world for better for everyone. It also has that butterfly effect in there, all those beautiful butterflies, transforming themselves to be able to then transform the world. But also there is a feminine hand. So we are all about changing quite radically and quite boldly the business world into a more feminine way of doing business. So all these things, and also the community, that logo with the 3 circles is a circle of friends, circle of community, circle of network and support for entrepreneurs and people on this planet. So there's lots of stories just in that, and the ocean of life as well, and what does that mean to us to be in that ebb and flow of things, not always needing to be in the best performance, but also having those cycles of nature. So I really love this. So if you move on to the next slide, please, Sue. So Martin has been doing the branding and helping us to really get clear what we really are about in terms of conveying through pictures and so forth. Nathan Harris is an amazing young man who is really driving the technological side of the podcast production, and there is no amount of gratitude I can send over to Nathan's way, because it's something that I'm not technologically savvy. Yep, I can operate a Zoom or something like that, but to actually start editing a podcast, it's really a skill, and you need to be in love with that. And I think Nathan has done himself and everybody around him very, very proud. So thank you to both Martin and Nathan for helping us. And yeah, I'll drink to them as well.
So Anne, I think you're going to lead us now on a beautiful meditation just to relax us and to get us into the vibe for the rest of the session.
We take that ebb and flow quite seriously. So one of the things I would like to invite you to come along now is a little adventure, a little playful adventure with us. And this is a meditation that every now and then we find quite helpful in terms of visualizing what is it that we actually want to be doing in the world, and to getting clarity what our body and mind as a total being actually wants to direct us towards. So it doesn't come from an ego, it doesn't come from the more selfish, egoistical point of view, but actually what is the greater good of all. So if you're ready, I would love to invite you to find a very comfortable seat wherever you are, and just close your eyes if that feels safe for you. And taking a few breaths, feeling the support of your chair and the floor, and really feeling that you're grounded and it's good to be here right now. And next, when you've taken a few deep breaths, just tune into the words ecstatic empowerment. And just feel how it feels in your body. And what would it mean if the world was ecstatically empowered? What would it look like? Just start visualizing in your mind's eye, what would world look like if it was ecstatically empowered? What would your life look like as an entrepreneur, as a leader? What can you see? What does surround you? Are there people, your employees, your investors, supply chain? What does your family look like if the world was ecstatically empowered? What about the environment, nature? Anything else, perhaps? How do you look like? And next, I invite you to hear an ecstatically empowered world. What does it sound like? What are people saying? What are you saying? Anything else? What kind of sounds do you hear? Music, perhaps? Sounds of nature? And what do you feel? What do you touch? Really feeling that in your hands, feeling in your body, that ecstatic empowerment. How does it feel? And this might be a bit tricky, but what do you taste and smell? What does ecstatically empowered world smell and taste like? And when that feels complete, I invite you to slowly open your eyes and come back to this present moment. And just keeping that vision for your ecstatically empowered life as an entrepreneur, as a citizen on this planet. And maybe it starts living its own life, starting manifesting more joy, more happiness, more inspiration, more playful adventure, and purposeful action. Thank you. And without a further ado, I think it's time to give stage on our guests.
Indeed. Thank you, Anne. That was very beautiful and grounding. And I'm still smiling because all I could see were everyone around me smiling, happy, you know, in a positive, busy way, but, you know, that higher bright vibration that we can bring to everything we do. And when we do that, that moves out to everyone around us. So thank you. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to introduce some of our guests who are here today. We're going to do in pairs. So I'll invite one person and then another, and then we'll reflect back, and then we'll have a video, and then I'll invite the next person. So up first are Deepa Thomas and Mark Lovett, with Deepa going first. And what I'd like to do is just share, just introduce Deepa and just share a little bit. So Deepa Thomas is an entrepreneur based in Mumbai. And I met Deepa, I feel as if I've known you a very long time, actually, Deepa. We're part of the same entrepreneur network, and Deepa runs the Genius Entrepreneur Network. She's in Mumbai. She's a co-founder, and she also runs a training company and called Mustard Seed. And she has this amazing story because she is really about helping entrepreneurs to be successful, providing the building blocks, providing guidance and training, and creating a community where training and support are shared, but also helping people, supporting people to be vulnerable, to, you know, be open and aware and share where they are, because unless we actually acknowledge our starting place, how can we actually go to the destination, you know, start the journey and get to the destination we want to, unless we actually know where we start from. So Deepa, I am so honoured to have you here today, and also to have Anne and I to have spent time with you on the podcast and to talk with you. There's so much that you've shared with us that's pure gold. But what I'd like to do now is just invite you to just give a brief introduction and just share with us and our audience what ecstatic empowerment means for you in business.
Thanks, Sue, and thanks, Anne, for this opportunity. I think, Sue, the activity that you did, the meditation was, and the one that you did just now was so nice. And thank you for that. I think it's completely given me a new definition of this whole ecstatic empowerment, the name that you have. So thank you for that. A bit introduction about me. I'm from Mumbai, India, and we have a training company, corporate training companies that we are running since 2007. And we work with top corporates in Mumbai for various leadership programs that we do for them. And we have started an entrepreneur network 4 years back, and we call it the Genius Entrepreneur Network. And through that, we are creating an ecosystem for entrepreneurs to learn and to grow. So that's a bit about me and what this word ecstatic empowerment means to me now after this exercise that Anne took us through. I think I saw, so much of joy. Once you are full of joy and in a place of security or a place of contentment about who you are able to enjoy everything else that is there in your life. And I felt when I was imagining, I felt that I would be able to enjoy myself so much more. People around me would be able to enjoy themselves so much more. And we would be able to enjoy our family, our friends, all the possessions that we have, all the gifts that we have been blessed with. And we will be able to enjoy so much more. There would be no place for fear. They say when a child is born, there is no fear in the child at all. It's the fear is all acquired as we grow up. And, this fears will be gone, the insecurity will be gone because we are empowered. And I think the world will be a completely different place. And I think, that's what I would like to say now after hearing what Anne had to say about this. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepa. That was really beautiful. A world without fear. That would be, caution sometimes, but with more joy than fear. Tipping that balance. I agree. That would be absolutely amazing and empowering as well. So I'm going to now invite Mark Lovett to. I'm just going to share and just introduce Mark, and then invite Mark just to share a few words of introduction and also of what ecstatic empowerment means for him in his work and business. So let me just share and move. There we go, Mark. So Mark Lovett is a storyteller par excellence. He teaches businesses to do professional storytelling about their impact. And he can, when you listen to the podcast, you'll hear about the power of stories and how they are truly transformational, and how they empower, how a simple story, what we think might be a simple story, can actually change somebody else's world. So the podcast or the conversation that Mark had with us was about storytelling as a cultural bridge to success, and understanding and expressing shared humanity to build a more vibrant world. So Mark, I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself, because I'm sure I've missed something out, and also just share with us what ecstatic empowerment means for you in your life, work, and business.
Well, sure. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'd start with a comment based on that meditation that Anne took us through. And especially at the ending when she talked about what we could taste and what we could smell. And because sometimes the empowering aspects of life are different than that purely logical piece that we think, I have to think my way through this. And the smell that has always empowered me, because I've always grown up on the ocean, near the ocean. So that smell of the ocean always had this ability to just change my whole mindset and change the way I feel. And when she talks about taste, the thing that popped into my mind, this might sound a little silly, but I moved into a new neighborhood and I found a French bakery here that makes amazing baguettes. And just that one bite, it was this sense of artistry in whoever produced this, because you can make a million baguettes with, in a million different ways. But somebody brought this recipe to light and now they're sharing it with this entire community. So in this very small way, something that seems so simple, I still felt very blessed that now I get to go to this place whenever I want and taste a baguette. I could even take a baguette to the ocean if I want. To talk about the ecstatic empowerment, I'll go back to my corporate days where I worked many years as an executive in the computer industry. And our CEO, I was blessed to have this gentleman as my mentor. And he always talked about possibilities. He said, we have so many possibilities in front of us. We can take this company in so many directions, so many things we can do. We can't do everything. We don't have those resources, but to think about this limitless possibility. And then as you think about each possibility, you have to think about the path. How would I get there? How would I make that possibility a reality? And when he basically preached that to the entire company, there was this ecstatic sense within the company that people felt that they were allowed to dream anything they wanted to. But they couldn't stop at just the dreaming. They couldn't stop at just the idea. They had to come up with a path to make it happen. And over again, employees would come up with ideas that we actually implemented in the business because they presented a way to get there. They really thought about it. Now, when I got out of the corporate world, I started organizing TEDx events and working with speakers from every walk of life, telling stories from the human side of the experience to scientific, to business, to politics, you name it, we had them on our stage. And so again, I saw this wide range of possibilities in storytelling topics and in how those stories could affect people. During the breaks, I would always mingle with the audience because I stayed backstage the whole time. People didn't really know who I was. A lot of people didn't. And I would just listen to their comments. And I saw how those stories, one individual story, would touch people in so many different ways. And so that got me excited about stories. So every time somebody walked out on stage, I knew that they were going to go out there and touch a lot of lives. And so that's what I do professionally now, is I work with speakers to help them tell stories. I spend a lot of time in the sustainability field because I really feel that this is a critical juncture in the planet's history, that if we don't get this right, and if the story turns out going the wrong way, there will be a price to pay for that. But luckily, I see so many people around who are trying to make a difference. So I'm working with people involved with climate change and people involved in oceanography. And the stories they have to tell are amazing, but they keep those stories to themselves often. But I see when they share those stories, people gain a better understanding. And so it comes back to that same metaphor of possibilities and what's the path. So to have people talk to me about what's possible going forward, what's possible to create a better world, both in the business sense and in the environment sense. And then I try to get them to think about, what is that path? What is your idea to get from point A to point B? And so that's what really keeps me going each day, is I never know what the next story is that I'm going to hear that can make a difference to the world.
Interesting. It just shows what a good, great storyteller you are, because, just, taking the taste and smell, you just make it into a story. And I said, oh, I want to come to Portugal to taste that. forget and to go on the beach. And it's something that is a skill. And what you just actually told us, it's about the possibility to be able to dream, and then having the empowerment to actually think about the path, the way to get there is a very good structure, in my opinion, to actually tell a story. So thank you for that. I think that's and so you weaved into the idea of the ecstatic dreaming and empowered action. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And Deepa, also thank you so much about your world vision of creating a place without a fear. I just absolutely love that, because if you are absolutely right, if we can all live from that contentment, as you said, being relaxed and happy and feeling safe and secure, the children that will born into that world, they will be the same. There is no fear. And what kind of world would that be, without war, because wars happen from fear and from lack and from all that kind of insecurity of not being enough or not having enough. So I really want to thank you for that beautiful, beautiful worldview and vision, and may it become true one day. And here we are talking more about ecstatic empowerment, and one person at a time will get there, I'm sure. Thank you. And Sue, you've got now our next guest, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but she has sent us a video. So let's see how we manage technology. It's always, for us. Here we go.
Yes. So first of all, let me introduce Masami Sato. I met her many years ago. She was speaking at an event, and I didn't know who she was. And she is actually the CEO and co-founder of B1G1, or Buy One, Give One, based in Singapore. And she has an amazing story. But the idea of B1G1, which is that businesses, whenever they do business, raise an invoice, make a sale, they can make a giving impact to projects around the world. And her starting thought was, we have buy one, give one. So, this idea, if you buy more, you get a discount. But what if we bought one and gave one? And so she talks very much about the spirit of giving, and that transformation can start with one idea. And it can be a really, really small idea that becomes huge. And B1G1, at the moment, they actually track their impact. And last year, I think they'd made about 200 million impacts, and now it's about 250 million. So that very small idea is growing and growing and growing. So what I'd like to do now is, Masami couldn't be with us today, but she did prepare a little video for us, which I am now going to share. And thank you, Anne, for giving me the responsibility of making sure I can do this. So bear with me one sec. Oh, I'm already sharing, so I'm going to share sound, optimize for video. And here we go.
Hello, Anne and Sue. I just wanted to take a moment to record this quick message to congratulate you on the launch of your Ecstatic Empowerment Podcast. I can't be there live today because of the time difference, but I think it's a fantastic topic and a very interesting one. And I also wanted to mention that we are so grateful for the fact that you chose to incorporate effective giving in your podcast, so that every episode that you release will have a positive impact, not only on the lives of people who get to listen to this podcast, but also on the lives of people around the world, especially that you've chosen project to support, which is to help women around the world and be empowered to start their own business and change their destiny. So I hope that you will get to inspire many lives around the world through your podcast. And we are ever more grateful that you are making those differences on the lives of people around the world as well. So all the best and have a great launch event.
So thank you, Masami. That was, yeah. So, and we'll talk a little bit more towards the end about buy one, give one, and B1G1 and giving impacts. And we've actually made some impacts in honor of this event today and of everyone here today. So we'll share that in a moment. And now I'd like to introduce Rich Jensen to you. So I'm going to share again. I hope is it Jensen or Jensen, Rich? I should know.
I go by Jensen, the
Jensen,
Americanized.
okay. As you see,
version of
we're
the
very
Danish.
yes. As you see, we're very international here. So we never know. So Rich. Rich is a musician, a songwriter, an entrepreneur. Again, I think the commonality here today is that we all have so many stories that we can share. Rich is the executive of Resonate Music Cooperative based in Ireland, but it's a global cooperative with global reach and a global vision to disrupt the music industry and to make it more collaborative and to effectively take, I hope I'm saying this right, Rich, to go back to the roots of music, which is about the joy of the music and the sharing and the experiential aspects of music in our lives. And many of us, you know, for me, actually, my memories, I've realized, are held in the fabric of the music that I've, you know, listened to since I was a child. So Rich talks about music for coordinating radical transformation in times of evolutionary crisis. And I think you would all agree in terms of what we've heard today so far, that we're certainly at that point, that tipping point in this planet's history of evolutionary crisis. So Rich, I'm going to hand over to you to just share a little bit about yourself and what ecstatic empowerment means for you in business.
Thank you so much, Sue and Anne. I have such gratitude for being, well, I feel very fortunate to have crossed your path, and I have great gratitude for having been invited to meet this expanding circle that you've organized around this concept of ecstatic empowerment. I kind of carry my whole life with me, I think, in the moment. So I'm at the same time that I've arrived at whatever chronological age I am, I'm also a very young person. And I remember how my life has been organized. And I have had the experience of having, I can say that my life, who I am now, has been organized by music. And I have a kind of technical ideas about what music is in a matter of space and vibration. And then because it is about space and vibration, it's about the interior that the artist or musician is bringing out into the exterior, which is a shared space. And that's why music really, since ancient times, has been the field for social coordination. And that's why I consider it a social superpower. And where it intersects with your journey, and particularly ecstatic empowerment, as I see it, is this rooting in the body. The fact that ecstasy, we're talking about ecstasy, it's an embodied experience. And so if we just use our bodies to guide our relations in the world, there's just something just seems very sensible about that to me. And several of the guests have mentioned how this is a critical point in history for any number of reasons. And so the idea of being guided by these physical forms at the heart just seems just eminently practical, because for me personally, I see the crisis as one of kind of a misassignment of priorities. And to me, the computers never have ecstasy. The machines never have ecstasy. Ideas don't have ecstasy. Only living beings, including ourselves, experience this. And if we empower this experience, that means we're taking care of our bodies. We need to feed them. We need to keep them healthy. And just being guided by that simple thing, instead of all the ideas to machines and calculations of wealth and other ways of scorekeeping. This just seems like a very simple way to direct our time and attention while we inhabit these bodies. And for me, music has been a way of mapping these intuitions and sharing them. And I've seen, I think we all live with music. I think I like to say that music made us human, and I can get into the anthropological arguments for that. There are plenty of things that have made it. Other people can say other things, but music certainly contributed. So in any case, the work that I do is, I've had the opportunity to be invited to contribute to a cooperative where, as you say, we're kind of blending the music industry conventions in a way that advantages artists, that brings people together, that supports democratic cooperatives as a entrepreneurial form, and really is welcoming to everyone on the planet that wants to get involved in our journey. And it's been great to be here and be introduced to those folks that you welcomed into this podcast and the practice of future-proof your business. Again, I'm terribly honored. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you, Rich. That really touched me. I think you summed it up beautifully. The whole embodiment of ecstatic and how you empower your body, and having that as a practical practice is to imprint your way of beingness in this world, and using music as a conduit for that. I think it's wonderful, and being one of my first professions was actually a cooperative advisor. So I'm really excited to see that cooperative that was at one point considered as a very old-fashioned fossil-like, from the past, is actually having the rejuvenation, and it's coming back because people want to do structurally do different legal forms for their businesses. And I think it's still an amazingly wonderful legal form, or a construct, because obviously not every country has a legal form for cooperatives. So, it does give that fairer, more just society and structure for doing business. And I want to really celebrate that. Thank you so much. And there were so many things I wrote down from that. So thank you. And also, just going back to Masami's Sue, I think she really captured the idea of ecstatic empowerment is all about transformations and changing lives, whether it's through what you do as a core business or as a person, how you show up in the world, but also how you are going to help other people to change their lives and destiny. She was talking about destinies, and I think it has that kind of responsibility as well, that to be able to have those opportunities in your life, that not everywhere in this world are equal, obviously. So I think that was also in that little snippet of her video, there were lots of important messages there. So yeah, over to you. Who is our next guest? You're not on voice.
Thank you, Anne. I was just going to say, actually, you reminded me of Masami. I've never seen her not smile. She absolutely epitomizes joy for me, and empowerment to get things done. So yes, so we're very grateful to Masami and to Rich as well. Thank you for joining us today. So now we're going to move on to three of our guests, esteemed guests, who aren't able to be with us today, but send their best wishes. And so I think we'll start with Gerdy. So I'm going to share. And so Gerdy Favert, I actually met her on a mountain, a small mountain in Portugal, a few years ago. And I remember thinking, next time I go up a mountain, I definitely want Gerdy as my guide. She's a very grounded person that emanates trust, and you know that you're in safe hands. So Gerdy's episode is called Mountain Leadership Reconnecting with Nature. And she basically takes CEOs up into the mountains in Austria. She's actually from the Netherlands, but she decided that wasn't her home. So she uprooted, decided to move to Austria, and she's at home in the mountains. She's found her home. So she had the courage to actually take life into her own hands and change her life for good. So she takes people into the mountains and just lets them walk at their pace, because she knows that eventually they will find the right pace and they will reconnect with nature and actually discover things that they never knew they were physically capable of. So she talks about true leadership starting when we connect with ourselves, and that means reconnecting to nature. And I think that that links very beautifully to some of the ideas and principles that we've been talking about so far around self-awareness and connection. And so when we asked Gerdy what ecstatic empowerment meant for her, she talked about when she takes people up into the mountains. And usually people who are very, very fit or go into the mountains all the time don't need a guide. So she takes people who are new to the mountains, that are really wanting to find themselves or get away. And she talked about ecstatic elation, when people discover that actually, you know, they look at the bottom of the mountain and think, I can never go up there. And actually they go up and they look down and like, wow, did I do that? Or they ski, or they learn to ski and they learn to, you know, stop on a pinpoint. And she said for her, it's seeing people empowering themselves and that joy in that moment when they realize, oh, I did that, I can do that, I'm more powerful than I knew. And then that's the beginning of the story. It's then what happens when they go back to their lives and their businesses and the real world and realize what else they can do that they didn't know that they could do, just by going out into the space and freedom of nature and reconnecting with themselves. So Anne, anything to add before we move to
well, I was just thinking that it is really about conquering your fears. You know, when you are in your own mind and you get used to being in the same setting, for instance, just taking that break and going somewhere beyond where you normally are can be such a life changing experience. You know, I've moved as well, and I can understand Gerdy comes from a very flat country. Holland is renowned for not having mountains, and then wanting to be on a mountain. It's really interesting, and being able to then conquer something like a mountain. It's you can change your business and everything, having that bird's eye view. And I think everybody needs a mountain every now and then. That's all I say.
Beautiful. And that perspective of seeing problems, you know, that seem so huge when we're in our every day-to-day life, and then actually moving away and looking from a higher perspective and thinking, that's not such a big problem after all. So yeah, there was so much that we explored in that podcast session in that episode. So Anne, I'm now going to invite you to share about the next guest that we have here.
Jim Morningstar is a pioneer of breathwork in this world, and breathwork comes at the moment from everywhere. At least in my life, it seems to be a topic. Lots of people are talking about breathwork and how it can be a personal development tool, and again, conquering yourself in so many ways, but giving that time for yourself to discover your own shadows and your own fears and your own also powers, and the ways in which you can actually change your life into better. And I think business is something that really can trigger lots of things in ourselves. And Jim Morningstar has also taught business people how to breathe. And I love his quote where he says, "The power to create your dream is right under your nose." And that is so true. It is so true. And how you can really breathe life into your life's work. So there were so many things, and Jim is my breathwork teacher. I mean, I'm a breath worker or breathwork coach, and it's been amazing to see how that you can even call it as a spirit of breath. You know, what insights do you get when you're just connecting to your breath, and how also your breath can calm your nervous system, how it can bring you up to speed when you need to show up and do something without having to have coffees or alcohol or other stimulants, and how you can also calm yourself down in the evenings and get that so important rest and respite and relaxation. But also breathworking goes so much deeper as well, and to be able to listen to Jim when he talks about breathwork is a true gift, really, and it's free for all of us to use as a tool, and indeed it is just under our nose. So do tune into that episode. I think it will be a very interesting way of looking at business.
And of course, there's no ecstasy, joy, or empowerment without breath. So it's core to, it's the fuel of life, almost. So yeah, that was it was a real privilege to meet him, as it is for all of our guests that we've met. A real privilege for us. So we're going to move now.
Can I just comment on the ecstatic empowerment? I just remembered that I didn't share that. So basically what Jim felt about ecstatic empowerment was that we can always push and empower ourselves to do something and feel, I'm empowered, I have more responsibility now, I need to now do it. And sometimes we feel, oh, can I please be a little bit more disempowered again, because I just can't be asked, I can't do this anymore, it's too much. And he said, when you bring that ecstatic into that equation, you kind of balance it. It becomes like the yang, the empowerment, and the yin, the ecstasy. You know, just bringing them together, you come into that ebb and flow, and being able to have the inspired action and then that ecstatic flow, and just, you know, have that balance. So I thought that was again another beautiful gem, like from all of our guests.
Yes, here. Yes, I remember now the ecstatic empowerment. We've brought the yin and the yang together. I love that. So, are you ready to? We're ready to move on to our final guest that we're sharing today. So, I'd like to introduce you to Dennis Hettemer. So, Dennis is a serial entrepreneur and investor, and a director at Ecology, a company based in the UK, I believe. And what they do, in a way, it's a similar in concept to B1G1, but of course very, very different, in that they enable companies and individuals not only to plant trees around the world, but actually to grow and watch grow their own virtual forests. So they're very much around reforesting the planet. And also when we reforest, we actually reintroduce the natural ecosystems, or we create the space for natural ecosystems to come back and to start growing again and thriving again. So when we talked to Dennis, we were talking very much about climate action and climate change and the anxiety that many people feel about climate change, because I think it's fair to say that most of us know it's happening. Many of us are seeing the signs, and we're having more and more violent, changeable weather patterns. But he was saying that actually, that's what we need to address, and how we can help people is by making positive climate change simple. It could be as easy as having a coffee and a croissant. There seems to be a bakery theme today, baguettes and croissants. So, and when people see that actually they can create change, they can make a contribution to our world, the planet, the big ecosystem that we're in, and it starts again as small. But also it can be something we enjoy. We don't have to feel guilty about it. That's really, really empowering and easy. And, we can actually be happy. And Dennis is actually another person from the Netherlands who's moved to Sweden. So again, we have another theme here of moving around the globe. So Anne, anything to add for Dennis?
I really like that he said that simple is a superpower. We've heard that music is a superpower, but here we have an argument that taking things in a simple way, not complicating things, and just starting, because we talked also about the climate anxiety and how people can feel disempowered and really frozen because the wicked problem is massive. And more you try to solve it, more problems you create. So it's really just that simple thing. Just take action. Don't think about it too much. And also the other thing that he was saying, that we need to start making peace with nature, and that will bring the happiness and joy back into our lives if we can actually feel in the end of our days that we have been good ancestors.
Beautiful. Yeah, we talk about leaving a legacy, but thinking about being a good ancestor and passing on the baton in terms of what's possible, and in a joyful way and an empowered way, because it's not about telling people what to do, it's about empowering them to make the choices, to make the right choices, to move us forward. So we've come to the end of our introductions of our first 7 guests. There will be more, and we'll be sharing more in future and sending you updates. And this is just the beginning of the Ecstatic Empowerment journey. So before we close, I'd just like to share again, we talked about B1G1 and just share how we've talked about the power of small and the joy of giving. So as a thank you to everyone here today and to everyone who's been part of the Ecstatic Empowerment podcast so far, we've made giving impacts to B1G1. And actually, we've been able to fund 100 days of literacy and business training for women in Uganda. And, this is life-saving for these women, because I read a statistic. I was looking at how many entrepreneurs there are in the world, and depending where you look, there's different numbers. But one interesting statistic was that when you look at the difference between the number of male entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs, a far larger proportion of female entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs through necessity rather than choice, or because they want to change their life, or they've got a new opportunity. So it is really becoming literate and having business training can literally change a woman's life and change a family's life and change a village's life. So thank you everyone for being part of that and enabling us to make those giving impacts. And Anne, we're also going to be launching an Ecstatic Empowerment Education Fund. So I wonder if you could just say a little bit about that.
Well, it is again, we are kind of co-creating what we're doing, and taking opportunities where we feel is something that is aligned to our dreams of what the world, in our dreams would look like. And one of the things is to take people along this journey with us and not go alone. And one of the things we want to do is to start this fund where we could do more good, bring people together and start sharing the information, knowledge and skills and networks that we have with other people. And that's something that is still in the ideation stage. But if you do want to give a donation, you're very welcome to do so. But it's not about money. It's more about pooling things together and giving opportunities for people that might necessarily not have them in their own countries, especially in developing worlds. So that's just something that we are observing and feeling into our own bodies. And last year, for instance, we did lots of webinars, and we met lots of people around the world, especially women who came on those webinars and really appreciated the different way how we approach the business. And we would like to pull people together and bring people together on both sides and start co-creating something that is called Ecstatic Empowerment Business World. So we'll see. But it is always when you speak any words out loud, they become more real, and they start living their own life. And who knows? We'll see what's going to happen. And I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for Deepa, Mark and Rich for coming today and sharing your beautiful wisdom and your life's work and breathing life into that life's work, and really having the courage to go for your dreams and making it happen. I think during these crises, like Rich, you were saying about the big crisis in the world, we still need to take the action and understand what the evolution means, and still co-create something better and more beautiful and ecstatically empowered. So thank you all, and thank you to our other guests, Masami, Jim and Dennis, and to all our listeners.